TIFU by giving a meth head $9 to rake my yard. So this actually happened yesterday and my roommate suggested I put it on Reddit. So this started at around 10 a.m. I was walking outside to my car to take my wife to work as we share a car. A guy walks up to me and starts saying he will take my yard for some money. I told him no because we have someone that does it. I also said no because he was clearly tweaking on meth and I didn't want him in my yard. Well, he wasn't taking no for an answer and he just started doing it anyways. I kept telling him not to do it, but I was in a rush as my wife was already running late, so I just handed him the cash from my center console and said try to be done quick. I was kinda hoping he'd just take the money and leave before I got back because I didn't want to have to deal with him. Well, when I come back from dropping her off, he's still there and now has a lawnmower. At this point I am just telling him hurry up and go. But he's just rambling nonsense at 1,000 words a minute and picking individual grass blades out. So I decided to just go inside and make breakfast when not even 5 minutes later he's banging on my front door. I'm not an idiot, so I didn't answer it because I'm sure he wouldn't try to come inside and instead I called my uncle and he came over and basically told the guy to leave in 30 minutes or he's calling the cops. The guy freaked out a bit but then proceeded to start calling my uncle Joe Biden and screaming, "I can't believe a black man like me is cutting grass for the president." He then starts up his mower and starts cutting the grass after we told him to just leave. At this point I'm starting to consider bringing my gun out to be more convincing. But I had a feeling he was from the meth house that's like 5 houses down from me and didn't wanna bring more trouble. In the end it took him like 4 hours and he kept begging for more money. I guess the meth has long since wore off at this point because he looked like he was about to die on my sidewalk, so I gave him a water bottle and told him the person across the street probably needs their yard done. It's an abandoned house. I went to Walmart several hours later and saw him taking the sidewalk in front of the abandoned house. This is kinda the short version. I did end up giving him another 5, but I told him from the start I don't really carry cash, which is true. Also, if you're wondering why we didn't just actually call the cops, I kinda live hood adjacent and that's really frowned on around here. TL. Dear, I very reluctantly gave a meth head $9 to rake my grass and he refused to leave my house for another 4 hours. Yeah, I had a neighbor that rented the place next door to me. Dude was a freaking wreck. Clearly an alcoholic and desperate for work. He offered to mow my lawn and I didn't see the harm in that until he started to ask me to cut it like 2 days later. Eventually I just stopped answering the door. Don't feed the bears, it only encourages and emboldens them. Where'd he get the mower? Look, I hope you learned your lesson. This man will be coming back and he will be persistent. Next time he is high he's gonna come back and want to do more work. Best you can do now is to firmly but kindly ask him to leave. Every time he comes back, simply say that you got no work for him and no money. Be calm, firm, and show him off your property. Don't escalate, don't threaten, but don't give an inch. And lock away anything that could be stolen. Dude, your catalytic converter will be gone soon. This guy will be back. My old roommate gave a tweaker at a gas station a ride once and the next day he showed up at our house. Dude just let himself in cause we left the door unlocked when we were home. I have no idea how he knew where we lived. Roommate claimed he never told the guy. Roomie gave him another ride just to get rid of him. He kept coming around after that, so we pulled all our blinds, locked our doors and ignored him. After about a week of this we never saw him again. Do not take your gun out unless you plan on using it. Do not use it unless you plan on killing the thing you are shooting for. Do not kill a person for being annoying. I let a meth head do some hard work once and it was great. He had a trailer already on his truck full of rock and mortar when he rang my doorbell and asked if I wanted all of my flower beds outlined with it because the material was extra. I got about $2,000 of work done for $300. I called him about 3 years later because it was cracking and his girlfriend told me he was in jail. I drove past the house about a month ago and it still looks pretty good 10 years later. Had this happen when I lived in a hood-adjacent house back in college. Although, they'd usually do the work first, then ask for payment, so you couldn't say no. One of them was a guy in a wheelchair who used to always try and wash our cars, then ask us to pay him if we were happy with it. The only thing was, we all drove SUVs and trucks and he only washed what he could reach, which usually just left a streaky mess on the bottom half of our cars. He always did the wheels pretty well though, so we usually threw him some cash. After telling him to stop so many times, we eventually just caved and let him do it. He was a nice enough guy. Pretty funny too. And it's hard to be too harsh on a guy in a wheelchair. And it kind of worked out in the end. He told us to tell anyone else who came around that this was Clayton's house, and they needed to talk to him if they wanted to do any work there. It worked like a charm every time. I can't believe a black man like me is cutting grass for Joe Biden. 100% worth the $9. The take versus rake typos make this story even better. Does not sound like a needs a gun sequence of events. Well, he wasn't taking no for an answer and he just started doing it anyways. I kept telling him not to do it, but I was in a rush as my wife was already running late, so I just handed him the cash from my center console and said try to be done quick. Quote, thanks for the free service. Meth head. Move on. Was it this guy? Lol. We got a good laugh at this one. https://imager.com/a/9kalel. You can't stop and talk to them. It inspires contempt in the meth head heart. You have to make the bastard chase you. LMFAO, I read the title too quick and thought damn, you're giving men head for $9? Question mark. Lol, I lived in a very bad part of Worcester, MA. Vernon Hill area, for anyone familiar. About 15 years ago. One day during a snowstorm, my immediate neighbor, a crackhead who went by the name Lil Migga, roughly 45-year-old black dude who grew up in Roxbury, MA, saw me shoveling my car out to go to work and came by offering to help with a metal spade shovel, like you'd use to plant a shrub. I also had no cash and told him all I had were 2 winning scratch tickets that I'd won $7 on from some contest at work a month ago and never got around to cashing them in. I have never seen someone shovel heavy wet snow with the wrong tools so damn fast, but boy oh boy, did it ramp up the begging for money for the remainder of my time living there. When he was done, he scampered down the hill like he was running for a gold medal to cash in the lottery tickets and returned with a bag full of 40s. If you give a mouse a cookie, you think he's from the drug house down the street and give him $9 and later another $5. Get ready for tweaker dance line tomorrow. A loud and abrupt no is all it takes. This is why you don't interact with tweakers unless absolutely necessary. They always try to entangle you into their psycho lives.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.